Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to Step Back Tonight for today, February 2nd, 2021. I'm your host, Tristan, and I gotta dig up all my things. I stream 3 times a week. I stream on Mondays from 12 till 2 Eastern Time with a show called Monday Discourse with Mia Mulder. Very fun show. We talk about stuff going on the internet. Tuesday nights, we have from 7 to 9, we have Step Back Tonight, the show you're watching right now. Hello, everybody. I hope it's not too echoey. It's a little echoey in here right now because I haven't put up my soundproofing yet. But Fridays I do The Reactor, which goes from 12 till 2, where people send me stuff and I react to it. So, yeah. go by he, him pronouns, and you can find my work at stepbackhistory.com or tristanwon'tshutup.com. And also, if you want to help support my work in the most budget-friendly way possible, I recommend going to patreon.com/stepbackhistory. Great place. You get to see videos early, and yeah, it's good. If you had to choose, if I had to choose of any way that you would help out, I appreciate it all. But if there was one that if you like are interested, yeah, Patreon's probably the best one. But if you are on Twitch right now and you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime subscription every month, which you can use to, support an independent Twitch creator every month. And if you don't, it costs you no extra money if you have Amazon Prime. And if you use it, or if you don't use it, Amazon gets to keep your money. I used to say Jeff Bezos would keep it to have sex with, but Jeff Bezos isn't going to be CEO for much longer, so I had to find a new joke. So please use your Amazon Prime monthly subscription to help a Twitch creator that you like, and if you like Step Back, then I would appreciate it. You'll help keep cats like this fed, and now I got mortgage payments, so have fun with that. Yeah. My latest videos, if you want to check them out. One that came out last week was on the Yakuza, which, yeah, is a fun video. It's not doing super great, but I'm still, perfectly happy with it. And the next video that comes out on Step Back, I actually just had a meeting about it because it should be scheduled. The tentative release date right now is February 12th. And it's going to be on Maroons, and specifically Jamaican Captain Cujo. Captain Cujo, who led a popular slave maroon in Jamaica in the 1600s. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And Romeo's trying to sleep on my keyboard. Hey, Pines and Needles, thank you for following. Welcome to Orc Gang. And let's see. Also, if my connection is in any way spotty, I'm keeping my eyes on it. We'll talk about it in a minute as soon as Romeo's done trying to push buttons on my keyboard. Tristan Won't Shut Up, my latest video is on Star Trek. My next video, I don't know when I'm going to be making it. I've got a lot of work to do. It's going to be on... I was going to say it was going to be on How to Stand Out, but I have a feeling that I need to talk about this stock thing at some point because it fits so well with another one of the videos that I made. So I have to do something about that, I think. And next up, if you... Romeo, oh, no, Romeo just deleted it. Okay. If you have a question for future streams, I have a good collection for tonight, but I might get into some extras because, you never know. But I'm going to put a link to the chat where you can submit questions for either this stream or for the Monday Discourse. So there's a link there for you. And lastly, this channel has been growing quite a bit. We just passed 84,600 subscribers. So I know there's lots of new people who are showing up. So please, if this is your first time watching a Step Back stream, make yourself known in the chat. We've got a very active and supportive chat here. So make yourself known. Alrighty. Who we got going on in the chat? So secluded. My name is not a cop. I sure do want to end capitalism. Who's with me? Oh boy. I want to see the corporate overlords stripped of their wealth. How is Kitty after the move? Yeah, so the reason why there's probably echoes is because I moved into this house on Sunday. So this is only my second full day living here. So far it's been really good. The cats have had different responses to the moves. Phoebe so what happened was on Saturday night, a friend of mine very graciously let us, what's it called? Gave me a ride so that I could take this desktop and the cats, the two most fragile things that I didn't really want movers dealing with. I brought them to the house, and I let them loose in the house the night before we moved. And when we got there, the cats were like, Phoebe was fine. She seems to have handled everything pretty easily. Romeo less so. This guy here, the guy who you just saw earlier, he's currently lying on my desk. He hid under the bed because I guess the previous owners of the house had left us a bed, so that was nice of them. But the thing is, it's like one of those beds where, like, if you think of it like a square, 3 of the sides have no way to get onto the bed, but the top does have a way to get onto the bed. And the way that they had left the bed basically let the cat get onto the bed, but we couldn't make the bed flush with the wall until Romeo got out. And Romeo hid under the bed for about 2 straight days. I think leaving only briefly at night to eat and stuff. Because he gets anxious and hides when we move. This is not the first time this has happened. So after 2 days, he started to venture out. Last night he came out. And now, except for a brief interlude where he got himself stuck in a closet, now he's just very clingy, especially to me. So right now he's just very clingy, which is another, I think, part of the anxiety of moving. Now he knows that I'm safe. So eventually he's going to, at some point, get more comfortable not being around me. And then he'll be in a much safer position. Yeah. So he might stick around the whole stream. What do you think of if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device? Talking about like Warhammer guy? I don't know. I actually don't know that much Warhammer 40k lore. I know that's weird. Where'd I move to? Still in London, yes. I just now have a house instead of an apartment. Eat your cats a hat on the pet. Aw, yeah. They're both doing okay now. Romeo probably still needs a couple more days until he's like back to normal. Because at the moment he's like extremely clingy, but he'll get better. I had to stream with this door open because he was like just like absolutely not letting him in. And then when I closed the door, when I let him in, he then was like not being able to leave either. So yeah. So how's everybody in the chat doing tonight? I haven't had a check to look at much of the news lately. The last few days I've been kind of preoccupied. So I hope nothing huge except for the Jeff Bezos thing has happened. What's it called? The last news story before I went into moving mode was all the stuff with Abby Thorne and Philosophy Tube. And oh yeah, Myanmar did have a military coup of Aung San Suu Kyi, which, like, I don't like military coups at the best of times, but man, it's really, really hard to drum up sympathy for Aung San Suu Kyi, who led a Islamophobic genocide. So I don't know. Yeah, I was actually like watching the philosophy tube video as so like the philosophy I was watching the philosophy tube video waiting for my friend to come by with the car so we can move the cats to the new house. And I finished it like right before I had to leave. So it was like the last thing that I got to that I watched at home. It's the last YouTube video I watched at home before the next day, which was just all chaos and moving. I've also not been able to do a whole lot because I'm like, my muscles are all really sore from moving. So like, I've had like, I spent the last 2 days like falling asleep and at the same time, like just really sore. And so it's been a whole thing. But now we're here. I'm slowly going through these boxes. This time I know I'm going to be living here for years, decades even, possibly. So I'm going to hang more stuff up. I have a big pile of shit that needs to get hung up on the walls. So, and I've got a lot of blank walls, so I got to do some stuff. A video about the IRA, I have not. I don't think I've done any Irish history. I really don't know that much about Ireland. Can you make a video about what happened between what China did to Sri Lanka? I don't know what China did to Sri Lanka. This is the first I'm hearing about it. Okay, let's see what we got here. So I got some questions submitted from you people. First one comes from DQuack. Cat girls, yes or no? Well, I've got one cat girl and one cat boy. And they both are basically the focal point of my life in a lot of ways. So, yeah. I'm definitely pro cat girls and boys. Right, Romeo? Probably not an answer. Moved to my current place 6 years ago. I have stuff in boxes. That's nice. Or is that not cat girls? That's girl cats. So we got 255 in the chat. So, we can get rid of that question real fast. Like anime ones. I mean, what about anime cat girls or whatever? I think it's a little strange. But if that's what people like, then that's what they like. That's my take. Did you hear about AOC? That she like told a kind of Instagram live story about what her experience was like when she was like locked down during the January 6th riot, and it talked about the fact that she'd been a victim of sexual assault. Yeah, I've heard about it. I didn't see it, but I've heard about it, and that shitty people are like what's his name? Matt Tracy tried to make a thing out of it. It's the internet, same shit, different day, right? Somebody tries to talk about a harrowing experience that they went through, and someone tries to turn it into some sort of weird take. Just shows how terrifying that whole thing was. Romeo. Jeez. It's like he's got a little scratch on his nose. I don't know how he got that. Heard that China is threatening war if Taiwan declares independence. Do you think that is just posturing or an actual threat. So there's a weird thing about Taiwan. Taiwan's whole situation is like, it's not a country that is recognized by people. It recognizes itself as the legitimate government of China. China recognizes it as a province of China. But the United States viciously defends Taiwan, though doesn't recognize it as a country. So Taiwan is independent. It's independent in the same way that like the West Sahara or that like, the Chechnya or like Kurdistan, like it's one of these countries that's not, because it's like in this complicated remnant of the Chinese Civil War in the 1950s or 1940s, it's like it's in this kind of weird position where it's not a recognized country. There are lots of various countries around the world recognize Taiwan's sovereignty. It's not that long of a list, let's be honest. But the thing is that whether like Taiwan's membership in the global community is very much in contention. And if you recognize Taiwan, you are doing so knowing that you're pissing off China. It's not in the Europe. Yeah, it's not a UN member. So it's like, it's, it's in a complicated position, and recognizing Taiwan explicitly will piss off China because China claims that Taiwan belongs to them. And Taiwan is functionally it's an independent country. But it's just because it's the remnants of the Kuomintang dictatorship that fought against Mao, and is like the remnants of like nationalist China from the Chinese Civil War. It's kind of complicated. And like if you look at Chinese money, they claim that they have Taiwan, and like, China's the thing is that the last few years China's been sort of flexing its muscles, and one of the things that they would probably want to do as part of their geopolitical aims these days, especially for control of the South China Sea, is take Taiwan, because Taiwan is a giant island in the South China Sea. So my guess is that they might. Yeah, that is true. Chicken Coop. This is one thing that doesn't get talked a whole lot, is that Taiwan is run by ethnically Chinese people, but it was a settler colonial state that was taken on top of a lot of people who are probably more closely related to like Polynesian people. So and so there's like a settler indigenous dynamic going on in Taiwan that doesn't get a whole lot written about. But anyways, the thing is that the United States has sort of not been doing a whole lot as far as like geopolitical expansionism and staying and like following its traditional allies in the last few years because of the Trump administration. So this is a complicated situation, because it could be that China is going to saber rattle to try and see just how much like Joe Biden's intention to make the to blink on this, because basically him saying that China saying that they're going to invade Taiwan if they declare independence, and they declare independence, then it's really up to the United States about whether or not to start World War III. And if the United States decides to back off and not do World War III, then Taiwan is a very long time American ally who the Americans just turned on, which basically would undermine the entire idea of the United States being the policeman of the world, and everything about the Security Council and all of that stuff, which, like, we all know has been kind of full of shit. But it would be the most, like, overt version of it. And Taiwan, a functioning democratic-ish government, would probably would be quite kind of like seeing what's happening in Hong Kong, but like way more, because Taiwan is a whole damn island. It's a whole island of Taipei. The Yakuza ever employ Ronin as muscle? You said they had traditions surrounding mutilating people, so they can't use swords, so I wondered that. It's not necessarily like samurai stuff. In Japan, they had a caste system that was like... There was a caste system in Japan that sort of... Your status in society was built around how many swords you were allowed to have. So samurai were not the only people who could use swords. Lots of people in Japan could use swords. Kendo is a, very well-known, martial arts practice in Japan that uses the same kind of swords that samurais use. Samurais were just like knights. But they did have control over how many people were allowed to have swords and how many swords a person could have. So if you were part of these different classes, you could have varying amounts of swords. And the more swords you were allowed to have, the higher your status in society was. And if I remember correctly, the Bakuto people, the sort of like carnies, were actually they were actually a officially recognized caste of society, and they were allowed to have swords. For China, would it be a lose-win scenario where they want America to background to disrupt U.S. hegemony? They definitely want... I think that China wants to test. Like, America has been greatly diminished by the Trump administration when it comes to their, like, place as, like, geopolitical hegemon that dictates all the things that happen. But after, like, Iraq and Afghanistan and the expansion of the wars all over the Middle East, the U.S.'s military is kind of tapped out, and that's why they keep trying to do things like more like drone warfare and stuff like that, because they're basically, like, logistically they're everywhere on Earth. It's too hard to do stuff. So that situation has China basically, like, in a situation, because China has been ascendant over the last 4 years, that China could very easily try to make a statement to try and get the U.S. to blink, which would be a huge sign that, like, the Chinese are they're the new world leaders, basically. If they challenge the United States' global hegemony and win, that is, like, the ultimate sign that the U.S. is, like, a has-been empire, and that that China will be, like, the next, like, big player, is at least at the same level as the United States, if not better. China either has to have I think China either needs to have a larger navy or have the U.S. collapse in civil unrest for them to actually take Taiwan, and neither of them will happen, right? I don't think that those situations, like the U.S. collapsing into civil unrest and China needing a larger navy, I don't think that those are necessary conditions. Keep in mind, there is the whole thing that China is much closer to Taiwan than the U.S. is to Taiwan, so. China is at the end of a very short logistics path and doesn't have to defend all that much territorial waters, while the United States has to, through various staging grounds in the Pacific Ocean, send their navy to cross, like, one of the largest oceans on Earth. They've got military bases in, like, Korea and Japan, but even then, those are even further away from Taiwan than China is from Taiwan. It's very close. So I don't think that's necessary, and I imagine that war gamers in Japan or war gamers in Beijing have probably gamed this out. They probably have a plan. Do you think the UK survives 2021 or 2022? Maybe. I do think that this year we're gonna see some interesting stuff. In May there is a Scotland's Parliament's having an election in May, and the SNP basically have tried to turn the Scottish election. Some people think this is more of a deflection from talking about COVID, because apparently the SNP and Scotland has not done super great in the COVID-19 department. So there's a lot of people who are like thinking that the SNP is trying to deflect from talking about COVID by trying to make this election over Scottish independence, which was an issue that also was going to be pretty big in this election. If the SNP gets a majority in the May election, there's also some issues that that London is not going to accept a referendum, but they want to do a referendum anyway, which is sort of like what happened in Barcelona with what's it called, Catalonia. But the London has no need to recognize it at that point. But who knows? Who knows what could happen? The UK definitely is up for some serious political turmoil over the next few years, as the enormity of what they did to themselves by leaving the European Union actually weighs in. Even though they did get probably the easiest out that they could have gotten given the circumstances. A lot of stuff's changing up in Europe this year. Germany is going to have a new leader by the end of the year. That's going to be a huge deal. Isn't the U.S. stationed in Taiwan? I don't know if they're in Taiwan. They're big military stations, and they do have a big dedicated defense for Taiwan. I don't know if they actually have military bases in Taiwan. I feel like, hey, class time, thank you for rating. Thank you. But I do know that they have gigantic military bases in Korea and Japan. England will keep calling itself the UK after Scotland leaves. Yeah, that's fairly likely. I'm curious what I'm kind of curious about is what they're going to do with the flag, because there's no reason the UK flag is mostly blue, and that blue is because of Scotland. So I am curious what they'll do with the flag, because it's so iconic now that I wonder if they would actually change it to be to follow suit, or if they would just keep it for the sake of keeping it. Do you think UK/England is the sick man of Europe? Ooh, spicy. Kinda. It's been the sick man of Europe for decades now, though. It's definitely not doing as well as France and Germany and stuff are, though. Let's see. It's going to be a huge deal. Yeah. The German election is going to be massive for the future of Europe, because basically Angela Merkel has spent the last 14 years holding Europe together. She's the reason Greece is still in the European Union. She was I know that she's got a lot of really shitty politics, and that she's done some shitty stuff in Germany. I gotta hand some respect for despite this huge racist backlash, being one of the few leaders who like held fast and strong when it came to the Syrian refugee crisis. I really respected that move. Um, but I also know that she's like pulled some Islamophobic shit in recent years to try and get reelected. So, it has its limits, but that was a big deal when it happened. And yeah, whomst runs Germany, whoever whomst runs Germany has a high chance of is probably the most influential member of the European Union and could be considered the de facto leader of the European Union. So. Romeo is licking himself, and now he's just looking around the apartment or around the house. Cats are they get confused because this house is old, and so floorboards creak and stuff like that. And anytime that happens, the cats just they're like, "What's that? I heard a creak." So they that kind of stuff. Um. Hungary can still give it a run for sick man, yeah. Scotland leaves, they'll switch to the English flag as Wales and Northern Ireland will quickly leave as well. Maybe. I have a feeling that maybe so, but I have this distinct impression that Scottish nationalism and Scottish independence is in a much stronger position. Like now, popular polls put like a majority of slim majority, but a majority of people, actually not even a majority. It's something like 49 to 43% of Scots are for independence, and the remainder are all undecided. So it's close, and there are more people who definitely want to leave than people who definitely want to stay. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes. Do I see a Unite Ireland anytime soon? I actually don't know. I don't even know what Northern Ireland's doing these days, and how like the idea of uniting Ireland is at the moment, and also what happens to what's it called? What's going on with didn't North Ireland get like something pretty impressive with Nationalists the other in the 2019 election? I don't know. It's been a while since 2019, so I can't actually remember how that election turned out. But I felt like the UK version of Sinn Féin or whatever did better than people anticipated, and that could bode well. And also, if Scotland successfully broke off, I wonder how much that would put gas in the fire of other independence movements. Who knows? How long did I go to school to become a historian? I did. Let's see. I started my undergrad in history. Okay, I graduated high school in 2006. And then I went to audio engineering school, so that was unrelated. But then I went to 2 years of a community college that was a program for people who did poorly in high school but still wanted to get a degree, so sort of like a bridge program. So I did 2 years of that, but there was no history in that, or there wasn't very much history in that. So I only actually became a history student when I started at undergrad in 2010. And I did a bachelor's degree that I graduated in 2013. And then I did a master's degree in American Studies that I finished in 2014. And then I had a master's in history that I finished in 2015. And then I did 3 years of a PhD program for history before I dropped out, which I dropped out of officially in 2018. So I guess officially I did 8 years of school to be where I am now. I don't know. Will the EU try to pressure the UK to let Scotland leave? Something makes me think that they wouldn't. I'm worried for Germany, bro. They might be, they might get a competed Donald Trump. Oh, geez. By the way, how's the echoey? Is it too echoey in here? I have none of my soundproofing is up yet. It's all in a box over there. I have to wait for some more command strips to show up so I can hang them up on the wall. So until then, it's going to be kind of echoey in here. But hopefully it'll be like, tomorrow. I don't know. Can Labour ever win again with just England? I have no idea. I'm not an expert on British politics. What are the odds of Social Democrats winning in Germany? Not great, I assume. Yeah, I don't know. You have to ask a German. Apparently, Germany, a bunch of far-right YouTubers stormed the parliament a few weeks before what happened in DC. Lovely. How would independent Scotland do economically? I mean, that really depends. Their economy is pretty rough. What's it called? Scotland's got pretty high poverty rates, like something like 20%, like 1 in 5. 1 in 5 Scots live in poverty. Like, the thing about the UK is that London is so centric to the way that the UK is to the UK's like economic numbers, kind of like with Greece and Athens, to the point where, like, if you were to just remove London from the equation, the UK is a very poor country where like an astonishingly high amount of people live in poverty. But if you include London, it looks like a civilized country. Scotland, I mean, its capital would, like, I don't know, like its biggest city would be like Edinburgh, and those aren't huge cities. It's like the big things that would be about Scotland's economy would be about if they were to separate, what would be their claim to the North Atlantic oil platforms, because that's like the biggest thing Scotland's got going for it right now. And I don't know if the UK will let them just take it. And so I don't know what Scotland's economy would be like, because like kind of the UK is a financial economy now. Like most of its economy is like banks and financial services, with the London Stock Exchange and stuff. So who knows? 62% of Scots. Okay. The last thing I saw, it was like a little bit more undecided, but I think things could have changed with in the last few weeks because of, Boris Johnson fucking up real bad. The Republic of Ireland was certainly pushing for Northern Ireland even harder if Scotland got out. Yeah, it's just the bigger problem with Northern Ireland, of all things, is that North Irish people are not super keen on joining with Ireland, because they always found being in the UK a better prospect for them. So it would be more about whether North Ireland starts to change their opinion. If Ireland unites, Northern Ireland would be in rebellion. Yeah, Northern Ireland is the situation, right? Sinn Féin has almost had a chance of being the kingmakers in Ireland, but then the ruling party sided with the Greens instead. Being said, the most unified party is still the CDU, CSU, and they regularly get 30% of the vote. Okay. Three years of a PhD. Yeah, I didn't finish, is the thing. I left because Step Back was doing so well and I wanted to focus on it, even though wasn't making enough to do that full time. But my PhD wasn't really going anywhere. I left because Step Back was going places. My PhD was going nowhere. It wasn't making progress. My dissertation wasn't making much progress. And I was just like... I already lived in a different city than the campus where my university was, and I just like all finishing a PhD would have accomplished is I would have PhD after my name while I was standing in the unemployment line, because PhD in history is not going to get you a whole lot. A PhD in $5 will get you a meal at McDonald's or something. Like, it's not a great career prospect, and for Step Back, it wasn't necessary for what I was doing, so I got out. My undergrad was only 3 years. Yeah, well, that bridge program I took for 2 years. When I took it, it was a 2-year program, and basically the deal they had with the university I went for undergrad basically got me all of my electives. So I went to university, and all I had to do was history. I didn't have to take any elective courses. Eventually, my last year, I stayed for an extra year, and I took just because I didn't want to take a full course load, because I was very involved in school politics and stuff like that. Like, I was in the academic senate, and I was a club head for a bunch of societies and stuff like that. So I always only took like the minimum amount of courses that you needed to be considered a full-time student. So I took an extra year to get through it all, and then I took a couple. And even then, I could have graduated a semester early if I really wanted to, but I took a couple poli-sci courses just to get through the year, because I was in the Senate for a year. So I that was that. Do you think you'll see a Canadian election this year? Could. Justin Trudeau is not making himself friends, and every one of his like he's not very popular right now. He's taken a bit of a hit. The problem, though, is that every time Justin Trudeau says something terrible, Erin O'Toole and the Conservatives say something even worse. And a lot of Canadians still basically assume that every election is just between the Liberals and the Conservatives. So while the NDP has been crawling up a little bit in popularity, at the moment, support for the Liberals has by and large gone up a little bit, but the conservative support has gone down by a ton. And so the Conservatives are not going to want to push for an election right now, because if they push for an election, they'd basically be giving the Liberals a majority at this point. And the Liberals aren't going to push for a vote of non-confidence. So at this point, it's in no one's real interest, unless they can really start, nailing Justin Trudeau. The Conservatives are not going to call for an election unless they think they can win. And at this point, they're not really in that territory. So I really highly doubt we're going to see a Canadian election this year. This minority government might last a long time, because The conservatives are doing very poorly, and they won't call for an election unless it looks like they're winning. Hey, Frederick Bestad, thank you for the $5 super chat. Have you been paying attention to U.S. activities in the Indo-Pacific? I have not. I did not know shit was going down. But, yeah, nuts. Should probably keep this tab open with the... Sorry about being so late on that super chat. I'm going to keep my window open now so I don't miss another one. In case I get another one. What are your thoughts on Modi being a fascist? I mean, I can see why people would think that, and they wouldn't be far off. The problem is that everybody's got different definitions of fascism, and I don't know if he fits all of those definitions. I'm kind of leaning heavily on this definition of fascism that sort of is saying that fascism is sort of the... Kelly hates that I say this word. It's really the politics of something that in academic-y speech would be called revanchism, which is essentially, I do think that fascism at its core, I think even more so than being a left-wing or right-wing ideology, is a politics of revenge. And that fairly often fascism is what happens to liberal democracies, because liberal democracies, or should I say liberal countries exist. I guess capitalist countries exist because of colonization. The colonial period, like what's it called? Capitalism develops because of colonization. And colonization is at the core of how to make capitalism function. And when anti-colonial movements happen, and when there's anti-colonial movements and an empire goes into a form of decline, that creates a sort of reaction against the decline of their country. And that typically is what ends up being a fascist movement. Because it tends to come out like, there's the ultranationalism, there's militarism, there's action for action's sake, there's the romanticization of violence, hypermasculinity, all that stuff in the Or Fascism essay. And so, yeah. And I don't know if Modi fits all of that. I'd have to do more research, honestly. Social here just wanted to say that I'm running for U.S. rep in the state of Indiana. Cool. My wife's from Indiana. I hope to join the Justice Democrats as an independent. That's pretty cool. Is Marjorie Taylor Greene the furthest right U.S. congressperson, or is there someone even worse? I don't even, she just believes a bunch of really weird far-right conspiracy theories. I don't know what her actual politics on anything else are. Honestly, I don't know if, people who know me on this stream long enough know that I have issues with the idea of seeing politics as some sort of Cartesian plane, and that you can be more right and more left, and that most people's politics are a collection of different positions that can be mutually exclusive and inconsistent to, a straight up reading of left and right wing politics. And so I don't, I feel like there's not a lot of value in figuring out whether Marjorie Taylor Greene is the rightestest of the politicians. She certainly believes a lot of bullshit, that's for sure. And she probably shouldn't be a politician. Scotland will be let in the EU quickly? Maybe. I could see something. Could be possible. The life expectancy just missed from Glasgow is 30 years lower at 54. God damn. London city state. Let's see. Marjorie Green isn't the most far right wing. She's just the most taken by conspiracy theories. Yeah. They were really playing with napalm with supporting Marjorie Taylor Greene, and now I imagine they're eating crow a little bit because she's basically becoming a liability. Will there be war violence if Northern Ireland leaves? I don't know if there'll be war violence. I honestly don't know the situation on the ground. There's probably someone much smarter than me who could give you a better answer. Hello, Intendoyan Kosi Shamanse. Welsh independence isn't that big yet, yeah. I worry for this country, but isn't as bad as France or for the U.S. Okay. Can you believe that I was just watching your video for Project Africa? I jumped off that video to watch this one. Well, hello. Nice to meet you. I think the key to getting North Irish folks to change their opinion in favor of Irish unification would be getting the Republic of Ireland to offer them a deal they just couldn't refuse. Oh boy. History is so important. I agree. All right. Have you done a vid on reparations? I have not. How's the move going? Everything at the new house? Yeah, everything is here now. It's just in boxes. Just have to empty the boxes now. NDP wave. While the NDP's been doing well, has been increasing in popularity during the COVID crisis. Most still, the liberal, conservatives are losing support, and that's moving all over the place. But the liberals are probably going to bear the brunt of that fall off. So I don't think the NDP are not even close to being in striking distance of even being official opposition. I mean, maybe that's the best the NDP could hope for in an election, but it would never. The thing is, it would never happen because the Conservatives aren't going to call an election if they think they're going to lose bigly. So the NDP can't, there's not enough votes for a vote of non-confidence without the Liberals, without the Conservatives. So if there was an election today, the NDP could possibly be in striking distance of at least being competitive for opposition party, but the current political situation in Ottawa is such that that would never result. The current situation would probably never lead to an election unless the Conservatives thought they could win. And unfortunately, the NDP are sort of on the back foot. They've been going down for the last few elections because, for various reasons. The main one is that their support in Quebec is disappearing because Quebec really couldn't handle Jagmeet Singh not being white. And And so there's been a lot of Quebecois people flocking back to the Bloc Québécois, the sort of independence party or nationalist party or whatever you want to call it. And a lot more people are just, like a lot of people who voted for Jack Layton in the 2011 election, which was sort of the high watermark of the NDP, have moved on to probably liberal politics. Just because, there's not that. The NDP just hasn't. The NDP has actively pushed out, its Bernie Sanders-y type candidates, and is still focusing on running sort of like moderate social democrats. Australia might have an election. Okay. Now, I don't know a whole lot about what's going on in Australia right now. AOC is super worthy of criticism, but fuck the reactions to her sharing her experience on 1/6. Yeah, they are shit takes. So, like, fascism is like peak reactionary politics. Yeah, for real. Yeah, I do think so. I do think that fascism as a sort of nationalist reaction to a country in decline makes a lot of sense to me. That's a definition that I think everything else, like all the other things of fascism, play into it in a way. But that seems to be like the number one cause. Like, our country is in decline. It used to be great. We used to be an empire. We need to make this country great again. And the emergencies are so big and so important that we can't rely on the democratic process to do it, so we need to go to a dictatorship to fix all of our problems. And it runs in a lot of the same circles of, like, far right, like anti-Semitism and hyper misogyny, militarism, nationalism, all that kind of stuff is sort of feeds into that idea that, like, it's this insecure, angry backlash against a perceived past in which they think things were better, which is sort of that's in that it's the way that it makes it more right wing, is that it is an anti-progressive ideology. When did post-scarcity communism become technically feasible? I don't know. It's probably in like the 70s or 80s or something. We've been able to feed the world ever since the invention of the Haber-Bosch process, and we already waste almost half of our food or something insane like that. When it comes to consumer goods, we've probably been able to have everybody get a reasonable amount of consumer goods for ages. Really depends upon what you mean by post-scarcity, I guess. Because, we do have enough stuff for everybody to have pretty much everything they want. It's just it's not evenly distributed because Jeff Bezos needs to have another airplane or whatever. So the UK and US are likely to become fascist due to the decline. I mean, the thing is, the UK went through a phase like this The UK in the 70s and 80s had already went through its phase where it had like big Nazi movements, and they elected very right-wing government and all that kind of stuff. The UK never had the fall of democracy, but it definitely went through, like, as the UK went into decline as an empire, it definitely went through this phase. And it's definitely still like a aspect of their society. In the US has only been in decline, I'd probably only call the US in decline since 2008 or so. And yeah, you can see it. So weird that basically that everyone basically only votes for the big parties, but only because those are the only ones only established. Yeah, there's like a chicken and the egg thing going on, right? No one should be a politician, correct. Big parties behave like they're too big to fail with no... See, the thing is, like, in a perfect society, we'd be anarchist, and someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene would not be able to have any sort of power, and so her having weird and oppressive beliefs would be sort of irrelevant, because what's she going to do about it? You could just not associate with her, and she would have no ability to dictate terms to you, you know? How many more years do you give it until the hard eco-fascists start showing up in public office? I don't know. I have a feeling that some apocalyptic disaster that can be directly linked to climate change is going to be the thing that gets the eco-fascists running. One of the things I think might cause it is these people are thinking that there's these heat waves that might be coming to the American Southwest, where in Arizona it might be so hot that it's actually inhospitable. Humans will not be able to live. It'll be so hot that no air conditioning system will be able to protect you from it. Your car wouldn't even be able to start. It would just be so hot that human life would not be able to function, and a lot of people will just die. And I do think that I do think that something like that might get some of them eco-fascists who are oh yeah, climate change is real, therefore we need to protect as many resources as possible for white people. But we're definitely going to see a rise in fascist activity if not only is a country in decline, but the whole world is in decline, because our the life support systems of our biosphere are starting to break down. Tristan, what are your thoughts on the I Don't Speak German podcast? Have you heard of it? I have heard of it. I enjoy it I enjoy it a lot. Daniel Harper, I actually interviewed him for a future video. I'm very, very familiar with it, because I've talked to Daniel Harper for an hour about fascism in America and everything. Actually, that interview is going to be quite fateful, because we basically recorded that interview, and then right after we got off the phone with each other was when all the stuff at the Capitol started happening. So that's interesting. Do you think USA will be united once after coronavirus is over? I don't think so. America's political division is something much deeper than just the coronavirus. It's something that's been building for a long time. It has to do with our with America's media ecosystem. It has to do with the growing divide between rich and poor and the way that parties divide politics. And also, and this is a thing we don't talk about enough, it's also about the growing distance between the lived experiences of urban and rural people in America. Rural decline in America has been steep, and there is a big well of people who feel like they've been left behind and Democrats and liberals don't pay attention to these people. And Republicans do, but it's sort of lip service. And there are a lot of people who have kind of like what I guess would probably be called like libertarian-esque beliefs that could very easily be recruited into something like, libertarian socialism or anarchism, because they essentially hold the same idea that the government shouldn't tell you what to do. But instead, because of stereotypes about people in rural areas and stuff like that, we just sort of write them off as cranks, and they start, they get more invested in fascist ideas. They voted to put the COVID-19 relief package of the $1,400 stimulus on the check to go to committee. 50 to 49, not a single Republican voted for it. Not surprising at all. I'm guessing that was the Senate because it's 50 to 49. God damn. Having a two-party system seems less democratic than having a more pluralistic system of representation. This is true. If only you could represent a political party that represents your own specific interests instead of having all these parties. Start to feel like we're bumming Tristan out with all these questions. Trust me, I get like the bleakest fucking... I just get bombarded with the bleakest shit all the time. That's sort of my... That's my thing. You need a lot more than that to take me down. Modi's essentially a right-wing pro-capitalist with ties to violent Hindu nationalist groups that are explicitly influenced by far-right European groups from the World War II era. So maybe he's not a fascist, but very cozy with fascistic tendencies. Yeah, that sounds about right. That would fit a lot of the definitions of fascism if the only thing that's missing there is really a disdain for democracy. If Modi started dismantling the organs of the democratic system, because the thing is, there's a lot, you can be part of the far right, you can be you can do a lot of racist violence and things like that, but for it to really be fascism, because fascism at its core is an anti-democracy movement, and you got to get that's the part where you got to really change things. But, yeah. It's maybe, I don't know, I guess, I don't know that much about Indian culture or Indian kind of, culture right now. But if Hindus feel like they are in decline and that they want to get revenge against those who put them in decline, which, if I remember correctly, in Modi's situation is basically Muslims. Could be a thing. It would fit a lot of the definitions of fascism, that's for sure. If you consider doing a video on 1492 Landback Lane, London's close enough that you could probably go do an on-location type video. Something to consider maybe when COVID opens up. Question, is your cat cute? They're happy question. Oh yeah, he's super cute. I don't even know where he went. He looks like he's left. Which is good, because Romeo was very clingy, so maybe he's going on and exploring stuff. That's nice. Are the Zapatistas on your future video list? Can't remember if they are. They might be. I do have, let me check. Doing a video on the Zapatistas has come up, multiple times in the history of the channel. I have a series that I want to make at some point that's called Leftist Profiles, where I've got. I don't have the Zapatistas. Maybe it's our Native Resistance. No, but probably should be. Maybe I'll put it in there. Because I keep forgetting about Zapatistas, and they're always like a topic that I should probably talk about at some point. Which, like, for anyone who doesn't know, they're sort of like a communist, anarchist, leftist, indigenous-led movement that has like a semi-autonomous existence in southern Mexico, and they frequently clash with the government. But I think that they're like the days where it was like at its most spicy have kind of ended. Hey, Devin, thank you for the super chat. Here's $10. Buy yourself a beer. Thank you. I actually live fairly close to a liquor store, so I might go do that. It wasn't so fucking cold outside right now. It was like -9 this morning. I fucking hated it because I wanted to go see what the corner store was like, so I just threw on a hoodie and went outside, and I was like, oh god, I immediately regret this decision. Should progressive parties run people of color, female or queer candidates, even if they might lose support? Yes. I think that it's more an effort to make the case rather than to, walk away from that. Are UK Tories and Canadian Tories the same ideology? I mean, close enough. Canadian Tories, I think, would be probably even more to the right of British Tories. The main difference, though, is that Canadian Tories are, like, the Canadian Conservative Party is more or less just a public wing. Like, the thing you have to know about Canada is that Canada is not really a country, and that the main two political parties don't represent anybody's interests except for major resource extraction corporations. And the Canadian Conservative Party is like more or less completely dedicated to advancing the interests of major oil companies, like energy production companies, specifically based out of Alberta. And they are basically, they as a political party are a lobby for oil interests. So that is much more of a thing in Canada. Like in Canada, the people's votes don't really matter as much as the interests of major resource extraction corporations, because Canada is a country that is basically a bunch of huge major mining firms and oil firms and energy and all sorts of different industries, especially mining. Like Canada has something like 4 to 5 of the biggest mining firms in the world are based out of Canada. So, and Canada is just a country, kind of like a fig leaf of a country that doesn't really have that does the bidding of these humongous corporations. So we have a conservative party and we have a liberal party, and they don't really disagree on much. They just kind of bicker, and meanwhile they both do the bidding of huge resource construction. Hey, thank you for the subscriptions on Candy Manny. 9 months, freaking baller. It's people like you that's the reason I can actually live in a house. What company do the Libs represent? The Libs also have a lot. They're not as owned by oil concerns, but obviously, as you've seen with Justin Trudeau and Keystone XL and stuff like that, that they are definitely not against doing petroleum's bidding. But I think that the Liberal Party is connected to a lot more of major mining concerns and stuff like that. and like, weird ass like the local corporation that owns London is called General Dynamics, which is basically a military manufacturing company. They make like not guns, but they make like Humvees and stuff like that, and we sell that shit to countries like Saudi Arabia, famously. And so like, Justin Trudeau has done the legwork to set up deals between General Dynamics and the Saudi Arabian monarchy, which happened back in 2015, I want to say. But yeah. Dairy's also big on there. Yeah, dairy's a huge fucking racket in Canada. One of the things that happened in Canada recently is because of the new NAFTA, the what's it called? US Can, I don't remember what the fuck it's called anymore. But they got rid of something called supply management for Canadian milk, which means that now Canadian and American dairy products, like Americans can sell dairy products in Canada, or they will be able to soon, which is really funny because for a long time, the Canadian dairy industry has had their fucking fingers wrapped so tightly around Canadians' balls. It's insane. Because, like, Canada, if this is one of like all right, my wife is an expat from the United States, and like one of the things you notice the second that an American comes to Canada is that milk and cheese and shit is so expensive, and it's because we do this like really tight control over what milk we are allowed to buy, and because that's disappearing because of USMCA. There's now commercials about how Canadian milk is higher quality and that you should pay the extra money for Canadian milk because American milk is full of antibiotics and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, whatever, you're full of shit. So that's fun. But every time you like do a dairy recipe in Canada, you have to like cut the dairy in half because milk is like twice as expensive as it is in America. But it's like, what is it even fucking... Because, like, they try to pretend, like, the Dairy Council tries to pretend that, like, oh, like, this is going to hurt, like, mom-and-pop dairy farmers. And, like, there's, like, 6 of those left. So what's going to hurt is, like, the giant megacorps that have, like, massive dairy farms. Those are the ones who are going to be hurt. Like, farming, like, farming is such a romanticized profession, and there's so few family farms left in existence that they're almost a non-consideration. Almost all farms are run by giant agricorps. So, and don't forget that, like, when it comes to mining, like, De Beers is in Canada. De Beers has a huge has a huge diamond mine in the Northwest Territories, and we have massive gold deposits up in there too. As well, Northern Ontario is a huge place for nickel and like other like big metal mines, and uranium is found in like Saskatchewan. And it's just like, yeah. All I can say is, fuck Canadian agricorps. They got fucked in the USMCA, and like I kind of don't care. Did you listen to the Behind the Bastards episodes on Nestor Mackno? I did. They were really, really good. Robert Evans is much better at this than I am. Are you saying Francis Fukuyama's running saying that history is over and capitalism is forever? Yeah, I mean, it's just weird how he said that, and then like capitalism has just been in crisis after crisis after crisis. Sanders won over rural voters in 2016. Yeah, because if there's anybody in America who feels like they have been left out of everything that's going on in America, it's fucking people in rural areas in America. There's a lot of people who've been left out, like urban poverty and racist, and like, you know, the inequalities created through racism and sexism and homophobia and transphobia, etc., are all like huge things that have made U.S. the most unequal country on earth. But one of the ones that does not get good headlines is the kind of rural-urban divide. Do you think you're going to get a left-wing government in Ottawa just from votes in Toronto and Vancouver? Yeah, for real. Like, the NDP has like what? Some districts in Vancouver, some districts in downtown Toronto, and like Northern Ontario. And not even Northern Ontario all that often. Like, the Liberals have a really tight grip on the Maritimes, like, you know, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI. Newfoundland is pretty solidly Liberal, too. Quebec peters between, like, Liberal and Bloc Québécois with a little bit of conservative. And then you go past there, there's, like, some NDP representation in Manitoba. But then you get, like, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and then the interior of BC, and it's just conservative for like thousands of kilometers or whatever, right until you get to the West Coast. And so luckily no one lives there, and so in Canada the every election comes down to how the GTA is voting, basically, which is sort of the suburbs around Toronto. I've heard people make that argument about rural Americans and libertarian socialists, but aren't they super in favor of land ownership? It really depends. But, like, they definitely believe in, like, yeah, get off of, like, my property, like the home I live on. But I bet that when you think about the difference between private ownership and personal ownership, and you say, well, like, you know, do you have that same kind of intense feeling for like landlords and shit? I imagine they would have a very different story to tell you. They don't like labeling themselves as anarchist or communist. Yeah, but they are very distributive and they don't have a very strong central government, so while they don't, like, you know, fit the labels, they have, you know, similar instincts, I guess. What is anarcho-nihilism? I've never heard of it. People just throw anarcho in front of everything these days. When I asked, should progressive parties run people of color, I have no idea what your answer meant because you just said a bunch of disjointed words. Like, I think they should. I just think that, you know, being substantive on the issues is should be of primary concern. But yeah, people of color, like, definitely have been left out of representative, like, you know, representative positions. And they definitely should have their voices heard. And even though it might cost some votes, I think that you can make that sell. I think that it is a moral imperative to make the sell rather than do the safe thing. Am I Canadian? Yes, I am. I belong to the megacorp disguising itself as a country known as Canada. Um, is that why cheese is so expensive? That is correct. Cheese, what's it called? They do, Canada does very strict supply management for dairy farmers, where they pay dairy farmers to produce dairy whether or not they're going to sell it, and they dump tons of milk into the sewers or whatever. They just destroy a bunch of product to keep the price of dairy high, so that dairy megacorps or big agri corporations can keep their profit margins high when it comes to milk. And in America, where they got even bigger agricorps, they can have farming on such, and they have fewer regulations, that they can have milk at such a massive scale that their profit margins can be a lot lower, and so they can sell they can sell their shit even cheaper. And America does even more of that supply management stuff. It's farming is like one of the most fucked up industries right now. It's one of those things where like we still talk about it like the way that farming was like 40 years ago, when like farming is like overwhelmingly now done by massive corporations that own huge chunks of territory that they use to make all of our food at an industrial scale. And in many ways, that kind of collectivization was necessary in order to get food to be produced at the level that we have now. But now we produce too much food, and they are able to use their Pepperidge Farm branding bullshit to get people to be hesitant about like saying like, hey, fuck the agricultural industry. Because they'll be like, oh, you want like, the family farm to go under? And it's like, the family farm went under in the 1970s. Like, fuck off. Hey, Cole2734, thank you for subscribing. 2 months. Yeah. Yeah, Quebec's got its own thing going on when it comes to dairy, that is for sure. Get yourself some backyard chicken and goats, comrades. Together we can upend the dairy and egg industry. Ludlow, you have no idea how close I am to that. Now that I have a backyard. Raising chickens is technically not legal in London, but they're kind of like moving in that direction. And if they legalize it and I get permission from my wife, I definitely want to make my own eggs. Yeah. Chickens are cool. They're fun animals. Do we talk about Myanmar yet? I don't really have much to say on it. I haven't really been very clued into the news in the last couple days, so I don't exactly know what's going on there right now. You know about ag-gag bills, right? Yeah, you're basically not allowed to even report on what happens at big agricultural facilities, because too many people were going in and showing how absolutely gross it is, or how absolutely inhumane and terrible it is, the things they have to do for us to get basically any animal agriculture at this point. Canadian mining companies also do a lot of sketchy neo-colonial mining in African nations. That is true, including hiring mercenaries to murder labor leaders. Canada fucking is evil. Someone's convincing Dave the SNP would be more likely to win if they ran a white candidate. What would you do with that information? I mean, I would ignore it. Honestly, electoral victories are, I don't know. It is a question with a lot of tension. I don't have an answer that I am satisfied with. Um, suppose someone like showed you convincing data that the NDP would be more likely to win an election if they ran a white candidate. What would you do with that information? I would say that they should probably focus on issues and try to find new constituencies. Like in my mind, what's it called? Just having to run another white dude so that the NDP could get seats in Quebec back is a gamble. It's not a guarantee. And honestly, running an the thing is that the NDP needs to start running an issues-focused campaign. This is if you run a candidate-focused campaign, yeah, that's going to be an issue. You run an issue-focused campaign, that's different. And the NDP tends to not run a lot of issue-focused campaigns, despite the fact that they have the best positions on all the issues. And they need to be looking for new constituencies. And I think that Canada has a lot of opportunity in like rural counties and or rural ridings, and in sort of the downtrodden areas of what's it called, of the Maritimes. Define in decline. The other day I asked you if a country can fall into fascism during a period of economic prosperity. At least they would have, it has like, it's the perception that the country is no longer as prestigious on the world stage as they used to be. Like an example of a country of like decline is like a former colonial empire that's lost its colonies, or a country that has suffered a major defeat in a war, or something like that. Cenk Uygur isn't that good of a source of left news. I haven't seen any examples of why. Is this true or not? I haven't watched Cenk Uygur stuff in quite a long time, but you know, he's definitely not everybody's favorite person these days because of all the union busting and stuff. And he's got some pretty yikes takes. I couldn't speak to the quality of his reporting because I don't think TYT actually even does any of its own reporting. It just sort of I don't know what TYT's like investigative or journalists are like, honestly. Why wasn't Emma Goldman partly inspired by an Italian political movement called nihilism? It was a Russian movement, but yeah. Caesar ordered that massive slave plantations in northern Italy be purchased by the state and divided among smaller free farmers, lower employment. Now everyone's moving. Yeah, the fact that I bought this house probably a few years before I wanted to buy a house because London's real estate market was exploding because people were moving out of the city because of COVID, and they were moving to places like London, which is sort of fairly outside of the GTA. I do want to raise some chickens. I'll make them happy. I'll give them foods and get some eggs. Modi is privatizing land in India now too. That's why there's a general strike, including a crap ton of farmers. I did see that. I would love to, like, chickens are so, like, it just seems like it'd be really a lot of fun. And also, don't chickens eat a lot of, like, shit that, like, that you just, like, they eat a lot of garbage. Like, not, like, garbage, but, like, There's a lot of stuff that would be like leftovers from cooking that they eat. I don't know. I'm gonna check out when chickens eat, but they eat lots of stuff. As soon as we have a half decent Ontario government, it'll be well under 90 minutes by train. Yeah, as soon as we got that high speed rail, but that's not the case right now. Still like at the edge, you know. Is raising chickens for eggs ethical? Birds have to weaken their bones to lay eggs. I mean, I don't know. Like, what am I this is chickens. I'm not like putting them in like fucking cages where they peck each other to death or whatever. I'm just raising a few chickens and give them some. Is it wrong to treat a house like an investment? I don't know if it's like, I mean, in general, the system is wrong. In specific, like, it's sort of like in our current society, I wouldn't like not do it just because it's a broken system. Because it is sort of like one of the only ways for somebody to have like a stable investment for their future. Because like a lot of things, like, you know, what are the other options except for like, put all your money in a big pile in which it does nothing, or, you know, put all your money in the stock market, which like I think we're learning is full of shit. So like, I mean, having a like buying a house if you can, where at least like your money is going to a thing that you are that is going to you know, help you with like, you know, your savings, rather than just like flushing money down the toilet and sending it to your landlord every month. I still think is a net positive if you can do it. But yeah, we definitely should decommoditize housing because everybody should have a house. Nobody should have landlords. Landlords fucking suck. So, yeah. Have you thought about doing a video on Madagascar? That has it hasn't come across, no. But, you know, see where things go. My next video is going to be on Jamaica, which I haven't done yet, so that'll be fun. Lawn waste, food scraps, they are great pre-composters. Yeah, that's true. And also, we have a composter. So I get the chickens, I give the chickens the food scraps, they eat it, I take the chicken poop, put it in the composter, I get compost, I grow vegetables, vegetables make food, food scraps go to chickens. Seems like a pretty good system to me. Chickens eat their own eggshells? Cool. After I'm done eating the eggs, I'll put the eggshells with the thing. They can have it. Go for it. Been telling people about your alt-right and militia history videos. Thanks for making them. Awesome. Thank you. I decided to not continue that series through February because of Black History Month. I feel like making a video about white power movement, about the white power movement in February would be kind of gauche. But come March, I am going to return to that series, and I'm very excited to pick up next when that goes. Are you concerned that you don't have me on your first stream after PT comes out? PT? Oh, PhilosophyTube. I'm not annoyed. I'm sure me and I will have plenty to talk about Abby come Monday. But, you know. People are really obsessed with you owning a house, Hunterson. Yeah, a little bit. Being vegan is good, yeah. Put your money in a big pile on top of all the rich people and set on fire. Surrounded by a house you don't plan to live in on as an investment? Oh yeah, for sure. That is definitely shitty. My video about Jamaica is not like a history of Jamaica. It's about a specific event in Jamaican history. And then, after that, it looks like I'm probably going to have room for one more video in February, and I don't even know what that's going to be about. Make eggshells unrecognizable before you give them to your chickens so they don't start pecking their own eggs open. Okay. Frederick Douglass's biography is good. It's a good read if anyone gets a chance. Growing chickens makes you sound like you're... Okay, yeah, raising chickens, I guess is the right word to say. A millennial leftist in the house. Now, this is news. Yeah. And all it cost was the low, low price of my grandmother dying. I'm just like one of those people in the articles about a millennial who bought a house where they what's it called? They didn't go to Starbucks and their grandma died. I didn't go to Starbucks because I don't know. I don't go to Starbucks. But like, what's it called? I'm not going to fault anybody. I spend money on dumb shit all the time. But my fiscal responsibility extends to just like, what's it called? Having a grandmother who had money and then she died. Cole 2734. I mean, my dad dying sent me to college. Yeah, it's a weird fucking feeling, isn't it? My guess is that it would just be like, I just think, it's what my grandmother would have wanted anyway. You think it's weird that Patreon has made some patronage a common term again? I like patronage, like 18th century composer. Yeah, I think of stuff like the Medicis and stuff like that. It is kind of strange. Maybe I should actually answer some of these questions from this list. Oh, I did answer that one. All right. Abbas Muhammad asks, why is the left anti-religion? Most leftists want to get rid of religion. You, from what I can tell, respect religion. So how to talk about that? Okay, so this is the perennial topic that gets all of the reactionary atheists in the chat very, very mad. So I'm glad that Abbas brought this up again, because it's so fun to watch all of you just have absolute fucking conniptions over the fact that I believe in people's freedom of thought. So the answer, I don't think Abbas is even here, so because he types in all caps and is very, very involved in the chat when he's here. But the reason is because I am an anarchist and I believe in freedom. And I believe that that I have seen with mine own two eyes, religion, just like a lack of religion, just like any sort of overarching worldview, bring out the absolute best and absolute worst of people. Because when people have a higher ideal, they're willing to do things that are beyond their immediate scope, their immediate reactions or whatever. That has pushed people to do some of the best and worst things that have ever happened in this world. People have, what's it called? People have killed millions for religion, and people have dedicated their life to service and helping others because of religion. People have killed for communism. A lot of people have killed for communism. And people have dedicated their lives to service and making humanity better off for communism. not saying that communism is a religion. What I'm saying is that it is like, a totalizing worldview, a very important part of somebody's interior world. So I believe that people should have the freedom to believe whatever their conscience tells them to. I know that religion is an important part of a lot of cultures, and that it is, part of people's existence. I'm definitely against oppression, whatever you do it in the name of. And for people who religion is an important part of their life and they don't use it to oppress people, I have no issues with them. And I have no desire to take it away from them just because Karl Marx said something bad about religion once. So I think there are definitely some leftists who don't like religion because they think they usually come from a personal bad experience, or they see the bad side of religion, and because they haven't seen or they haven't entertained, seeing everything as good and bad very simplistically, which happens, with a lot of young people. You get what you get. Yeah. I don't even know if religion is the opium of the masses was meant to be derogatory. Yeah. What if opium is good? Don't do opium. It's very bad. I just want to be not forced to participate in people's religious practices. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. What about people imposing religion on your kids? That's not free. Oh yeah, I forgot that. Well, then what's it called? In that situation, you have to talk about what are the other options, because I know that you've already said that you basically want jackbooted SS officers to show up and rip children away from their parents if their parents deign to say a prayer before supper or something like that. But I would rather. I know that that's a complicated situation and probably should be approached with nuance and on a case-by-case basis, instead of being like, oh, you accidentally said the G word. We're going to send the fucking, the Stasi to come and take your children away because you tried to impose a faith on them. Like, there's definitely a huge amount of degrees of nuance in that kind of a situation. How dare have the best possible take on this subject? Oh boy. And yeah, the other thing is that atheists listen to a lot of people who are like ex-members of a religion, and fairly often when that happens, you have to be very wary because it comes from a lot of the personal experience being very personally bad for them. For example, one that comes to mind, if you want to go into the same thing, Jehovah's Witnesses denying blood transfusions to their kids. Yeah, that's fucked up and probably shouldn't happen. The other one is what do you say to somebody who says that communism is evil and bad and must be destroyed? I know because I'm from Eastern Europe and I saw what it was like firsthand. What do you say to those people? And I would say the same thing I would say to I think there's an ex-Mormon in the chat, and there's a lot of bigotry against Muslims is pushed by the ex-Muslim community and stuff like that. And to me, it's this they might be a bit too close. They definitely have very valuable things to contribute to the conversation about how there are, the venomous aspects of a religion, of a religious community, especially the one that they were involved with. But to use that as the way to say, well, that means that entire organization needs to go, is maybe we shouldn't do that. For example, the Church of Latter-day Saints. big one comes up all the time because I say we probably shouldn't be a dick to Mormons. That's a thing that comes up a lot. People say that, no, you should be a dick to Mormons. You know, being a dick to Mormons will make them better people or something. I don't know. But honestly, the Mormon church has issues. A lot. I even said in my video on Mormonism that, like, hey, remember how the head of the church just had it revealed to him in the 1970s that maybe we shouldn't be explicitly racist anymore? Maybe they should do that with a few other things, especially on their approach to women and LGBTQ plus people and things like that. Just saying, if the head of the Mormon church is listening, hey, if this is Elohim giving you a sign saying that hey, maybe there's an extra book of Joseph Smith's writings saying, hey, don't be shitty to queer people. You can put that out there, maybe. But like, there are, but religion is bigger than just like the worst example of who they are, right? Because turns out at the end, a lot of Mormons are fucking human beings, and I'd rather turn the Mormon church and make it more egalitarian and free and liberal, instead of being like, hey, we should just destroy this institution that's been around since the 19th century, and generations of people have a huge part of their identity tied to it. It's like, feel like the option of like encouraging more progressive growth, encouraging the Pope Francises out there to try and make changes to big institutions that are have despite them having lots of problems, being very, very core to a lot of people's identities, moving in that direction. Yeah. I also respect enough for being a ex-Muslim and not falling into that trap. We did a stream together once, and it was very good. She had things to say to me, and I think we came to some interesting roads in that conversation. It was a long time ago, though. Yeah, I guess if you're a Reformed Jew or an Anglican, I'm fine with you keeping your kids. Okay. I guess if you're talking about like the Westboro Baptist Church, yeah, like maybe, yeah, if you're indoctrinating children with hate, that definitely feels like a form of abuse. That definitely falls on the abuse side of the scale, I would think. But I also, yeah, I have Mormon family who I love very much. As much as the Mormon church scares me, I can verify its members are all human beings. Yeah. And I always point out, because I don't think I made it explicit when I made my video on the Latter-day Saints church, but that the person who reached out to me about making a video about Mormonism was a anarcho-communist Mormon. And he literally was like, hey, sit down. I will sit down and talk to you, and I will answer literally any question you have about Mormonism to the best of my ability. And I did. And I talked to him for like 2 hours. And I talked about a lot of these issues, these same things that were brought up. And he was like, yeah, that's a problem. That's a thing that I wish we could deal with. That's definitely something I disagree with. But he is still like, he's still a believer. JW organization are abusive and controlling, according to Stuckerman. Did you talk to any ex-Mormons? I did not. I talked to this guy, and then I did a bunch of my own research. That was sort of my thing. Because the head of the Mormon church is picked by seniority and Mormons live such healthy lives in recent history, the head of the church has always been like over 90. Wow, that's impressive. That was the other, like, they abstain from, like, they don't drink, they don't even, I don't even think they don't imbibe caffeine, although that was touchy. When I said that Mormons can't drink caffeine, there were some that said they can, and then there was some that said they can't, and it got, like, into a real fight. And then the same thing happened when I said Sikhs can't have caffeine, because apparently that's also in a bit of dispute. Yeah, it's like kind of like how Amish people live obnoxiously long lives because they have this interesting combination of having a life that's very simple and very full of physical activities and, like, high quality food and stuff like that, combined with living in the era of modern medicine, which is interesting. Very interesting. You're Sikh and you've never heard of Sikhs not being able to drink caffeine. Oh, not coffee. Okay. I think it's there's a part in Sikhi about basically not taking drugs. And as far as I can tell, there are some people, maybe not many, who interpret that as to include caffeine and some don't. Coffee is for sure forbidden. Oh boy. Ludlow, I gotta ask. Well, I've got you. I'm probably going to have to close the stream soon, but I have to ask. So you grew up without having any caffeine and no coffee. So, first question, what does coffee taste like the first time you have it? Because something makes me think that that coffee tastes like shit if you didn't drink it while growing up. Second question is, the first time that you had caffeine in a big way, did you feel like you were gonna have a fucking heart attack? Because I feel like a lot of people have, like, developed like a resistance to caffeine because we just have it so much that I wonder that somebody who's, like, never had it, who's taken it for the first time, thinks that they're, like, seeing God or whatever. Those are my two questions. I don't if you don't need to answer them, but the stream's wrapping up in a minute, so you can just speak now or hold your peace if you don't want to answer. But I'd be very curious. What are we looking at here? Who the heck has coffee as a child? That's true. At some point, you have coffee. When is, like, the right time to start drinking coffee, right? Taste of coffee was gross compared to the smell of coffee, which I always loved. I weigh myself on a regular caffeine with sugary latte mocha stuff. Ah. There's the trick. You can make anything taste good if you dump a bunch of sugar into it. I can't even remember when I started drinking coffee. But yeah, it's like a thing, like, you wouldn't give coffee to, like, a small child. But also, like, I can't imagine saying no if a kid wanted one. And so I'm like, I don't know. Anyways, it's 9 o'clock. This has been a fun first stream in my new apartment. Our new house. House! This is a house. I live in a house now. Have I ever eaten sugarcane? Yes, I did when I was in the Dominican. But now we're going to go and raid somebody. Let's raid Sarah Zedig. We stand Sarah. But yeah, life is good. And yeah, Friday. I'll be back next on Friday for the reactor. So get your reactors in. Everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Love, etc.